They say Pendle Hill doesn't sleep after midnight. Not really. It waits. For centuries, the land has carried the weight of screams buried in soil, names forgotten to the wind, and stories that should have stayed untold. But people, especially those who don't believe, are drawn to such places. Curiosity is the devil's favorite tool after all. And if you ever find yourself walking alone near Pendle Hill after midnight, listen carefully. You might hear them whispering. And if you hear your name, it's already too late. Body. The cold bit deeper than the forecast promised. Ellie wrapped her scarf tighter, the wool scratching her neck as she adjusted the flashlight's weak beam across the jagged trail. The night was pitch dark, thick with moisture, and the clouds above Pendle Hill had swallowed the moon whole. She wasn't supposed to be here. Not really. It had started as a dare. A drunken challenge after a pub crawl in the village of Barley, nestled just beneath the infamous rise of Pendle. The kind of place that clung to folklore like ivy, witches, spirits, disappearances. Tourists loved it. Locals? Not so much. Walk to the ridge and back, her friend Daniel had said, grinning with cider-soaked bravado. Just past midnight. Easy. He even waved a crisp 50-pound note at her. 50 quid says you chicken out halfway. And Ellie, never one to back down, took the challenge. With just her phone, a flask of water, and a thin torch, she set off around 11:50 p.m. She figured she'd be back before one worst case. Now it was 12:17 a.m. and something felt off. She was alone. Completely. Not a single sound except for the crunch of her boots on gravel and the occasional hiss of wind between brambles. Even the animals were silent. No owls. No foxes. Just breathing. She stopped. The sound vanished. But her heart thundered harder now. She swept the torch around. Nothing. Only mist curling along the heather, swallowing the path ahead. Calm down, she muttered. Just your imagination. Ellie continued upward. The slope grew steeper. The trail less visible. Stones jutted out like crooked teeth. At 12:32 a.m. she reached the ridge. The view should have been beautiful, a dark valley lit by stars and the scattered lights of villages. But the sky remained choked by clouds, and a thick fog crawled up the hill like smoke, curling around her boots and legs. She pulled out her phone to take a photo. No signal. Battery, 42%. She snapped a quick picture anyway. But when she glanced at the preview, her stomach dropped. There was someone, something, standing behind her in the image. Far off. A black shape against the fog. She spun around. Nothing. Just the path winding back down the slope. She laughed nervously. Must be a shadow. Glitch or something. But her laugh didn't echo. It was swallowed by the night. She decided to head back. The descent felt slower. The path unfamiliar despite being the same. The fog grew thicker, clinging to her arms, seeping into her coat. Her torch flickered once. Then again. Then it died. Complete darkness. Ellie cursed, smacking it against her hand. It stuttered back to life, weakly. The beam now barely reached her feet. That's when she heard the whisper. It wasn't English. Not at first. More like murmuring. Soft. Slippery. Wet. Then clearer. Ellie. Her knees locked. The voice came from behind her. Then beside her. Then in front. Who's there? She shouted, her voice cracking. Silence. Then footsteps. Fast. But not coming toward her, circling. She ran. Tripping over loose stones, her lungs burning, breath visible in the freezing air. Her heart pounded in her ears. She didn't care about the challenge anymore. She didn't care about the 50 quid. She wanted out. And then she saw it. A figure. At the edge of the fog. Tall. Still. Wearing what looked like a black cloak, hood drawn low. Hey, she called, desperate. Help me please, I got lost. The figure didn't move. She stepped closer, unsure. Its head tilted, unnaturally far, almost 90 degrees. She stumbled backward. Its arms were too long. The fingers even longer. Hanging below its knees. It didn't walk. It glided. Straight toward her. Ellie screamed and bolted off the trail entirely. Through gorse and bramble, branches tearing at her sleeves, skin. Her mind screamed at her to stop, to turn back, but she couldn't. Not with that thing behind her. Her foot caught a root. She tumbled down a shallow embankment and hit the ground hard. Everything spun. When she looked up, she was no longer on the trail. She was in a clearing. Circular. Surrounded by dead trees. And in the center, stones. 12 of them. Arranged in a circle. Ancient. Carved with symbols. Which marks? She tried to move. Her body didn't respond. The air changed. Heavy. like pressure in her ears before a storm. Her nose began to bleed. A sharp, metallic taste flooded her mouth. From the stones, figures began to appear. Pale. Women in black dresses. Hollow-eyed. Their feet never touched the ground. One by one they turned to her. Ellie tried to scream. No sound came out. Then one of them stepped forward, mouth moving, lips black with rot. "You came alone," the witch rasped. "As they always do." "Please," Ellie managed to choke. "Let me go." The figure crouched low, inches from Ellie's face. "We are never alone." A shriek tore through the clearing, inhuman, layered. Like hundreds of voices screaming at once. Ellie closed her eyes. And everything went black. Conclusion, end of part 1. She woke to daylight. A hiker found her collapsed near a sheep gate, a mile from where the path was supposed to end. No injuries. No memory of how she got there. The photo she took? Gone from her phone. But in her gallery, one picture remained. 12 stones. And standing in the center, blurry but unmistakable. Ellie. Smiling. But her eyes were all wrong. The hill doesn't forget. And neither do those who never left it. It had been 72 hours since Ryan Holloway vanished. No trace. No signal. Just that haunting Instagram story, torchlight cutting through mist, his laughter echoing in the cold silence, Pendle Hill rising behind him like an open grave. And then, nothing. Chloe Holloway hadn't slept since. Ryan was more than her little brother, he was her last living family. After their parents' deaths 3 years ago, it had been just the two of them against the world. They fought like siblings do, but their bond was unbreakable. So when she got the call from Lancashire police, she didn't wait. She was on the next train to Barrowford, suitcase in hand, heart pounding. The village of Barley was smaller than she expected. Quaint. The kind of place you'd see in oil paintings or listed in forgotten folklore books. But beneath its picture postcard charm there was something off. The locals didn't meet her eyes. Doors closed a little too quickly. And every mention of Pendle Hill drew a silence that throbbed with unspoken warnings. The police, polite but perfunctory, gave her little. Search teams are combing the area, they said, but the moor's vast. Foggy. Not ideal. Not ideal? Chloe bit back, the scream rising in her throat. She didn't wait. That night, against every sane instinct, she packed her rucksack, borrowed a torch from the pub landlord, and walked toward Pendle Hill. The cold hit like a slap. The hill loomed ahead, shrouded in its usual veil of mist. It looked nothing like the daytime photos online. No birdsong. No rustling of trees. Just an eerie, oppressive silence, as if nature itself was holding its breath. Chloe followed the worn path Ryan had likely taken, boots crunching over wet gravel, breath visible in the frigid air. Every few minutes she stopped and called out, "Ryan." Her voice bounced back, distorted and swallowed by the fog. Nothing answered. At first. About an hour into the climb she heard it. A whisper. Soft. Just behind her. She froze, heart slamming against her ribs. She spun around, torchlight slicing through the gloom. "Ryan," she called, hope fluttering. "Is that you?" The fog shifted. And for a second she saw something, or someone, move just at the edge of the light. A silhouette, tall and still, facing her. She stepped forward. "Ryan." The figure didn't move. She raised the torch. There was nothing there. Just thick fog swirling, dancing as if mocking her. She shivered. "Get a grip, Chloe. It's just nerves." But deep down she knew, something had been watching her. She pressed on. The path curved toward the summit, where legend said the witches once gathered under a blood moon. A place of ritual. Of sacrifice. She tried not to think about that. Then she heard it again. A whisper. Closer this time. Only it wasn't her name. It was laughter. Childlike. Wrong. She whirled around, torch trembling in her hand. Who's there? And then footsteps. Crunching. Coming from the slope above. Chloe backed away, heart hammering. I swear if this is some sick joke. Suddenly the torch flickered. Once. Twice. Then died. Darkness swallowed her. She fumbled, smacking the torch, cursing through chattering teeth. It sparked back to life for a second, just long enough to show her something that shouldn't be there. A woman dressed in rags, face obscured by long, wet hair, standing inches from Chloe's face. Chloe screamed. The light died again. She staggered backwards, slipped on the damp stone and tumbled down the embankment. The world spun. Cold. Wet. Hard. Then, blackness. When she woke it was still night. But something was wrong. The fog had cleared slightly, revealing a structure nearby. A ruin. crumbled stone walls covered in moss. It wasn't on any map she'd studied. She dragged herself upright, body aching, and limped toward it. Inside, etched onto the stone floor in ash and bone, was a circle. Runes. Symbols. Candles long melted. And in the center, a phone. Ryan's phone. Chloe gasped and stumbled toward it. The screen was cracked but still lit. It was recording. Timer running. 73 hours. She tapped the screen. The video began to play. The footage was blurry. Ryan, laughing nervously, pointing the camera at himself. Okay, update, midnight, I'm nearly at the summit. I'm hearing weird stuff. Could be the wind, could be my imagination. Honestly? Kind of freaked. He turned the camera. Missed. Stones. A shadow. He zoomed in. The shape didn't move. Then he whispered. Is that a person? Suddenly the shape lunged forward. The screen jerked. Ryan screamed. The camera hit the ground. Then, black. Only audio remained. Breathing. Running. Then whispering. So many voices. Chanting. And then a woman's voice, calm. Cold. He walks where he was warned not to. So now he stays. The video ended. Chloe dropped the phone. Her blood turned to ice. Footsteps. Behind her. She turned. The same woman from the hill. Closer now. Face clearer. Eyes black as coal. You shouldn't be here either, she said, voice like falling snow. Chloe ran. No thought. No plan. Just blind panic. Branches whipped her face. Fog thickened. The hill blurred around her. She didn't stop until lights appeared in the distance. The village. She collapsed at the edge of the road, gasping, shaking. A car screeched to a halt beside her. The pub landlord jumped out. Jesus Christ, what the hell happened? She looked at him wild-eyed. He's still up there, she whispered. They have him. The nightmare started that night. Chloe lay in the spare room above the old village pub. The landlord, Michael, had insisted she stay there instead of returning to the Airbnb. No one should be alone after what you've seen, he'd said, pale and serious. She had barely spoken a word since collapsing on the roadside. Just enough to say, he's still up there. They have him. Now, sleep dragged her under like cold water, and in her dreams, Pendle Hill rose like a broken tooth from the earth, and someone was calling her name from inside it. Only it wasn't Ryan. She woke screaming. Soaked in sweat. Barely dawn. Michael burst into the room, eyes wide. Are you all right? She shook her head. There was someone. A voice. Not his. It knew my name. Michael exhaled like he'd been expecting it. He sat beside her, rubbing his hands together, eyes flicking to the window. You really don't know, do you? Chloe narrowed her eyes. Know what? He paused, then said it flatly. Your brother's not the first to vanish on Pendle Hill. And he won't be the last. Chloe stared at him. What are you talking about? Michael stood, crossed the room, pulled a shoebox from under the bed. Inside were old newspaper clippings, photos, police reports, all yellowed and brittle. People go missing up there every few years, he said. Usually tourists, hikers. Always around the same time. Late autumn. Around midnight. The locals know to stay away after dark. But outsiders. He handed her a photo. Black and white. Grainy. 8 women, cloaked, standing in a circle on the hilltop. Their faces were hidden. But all had the same strange symbol burned into the stone beneath them. Witches. Chloe guessed. Michael nodded. The Pendle wives they were called. Burned in 1612. But before the fires they made a pact. She raised an eyebrow. With what? He met her gaze. No one knows. But the hill's cursed. It's not just stories. It takes people. And sometimes, it doesn't let go. Despite the weight in her chest, something sparked in Chloe's gut, anger. She wouldn't accept this. Not folklore. Not ghost stories. Her brother was real. He was alive. She felt it. She packed her bag again, this time with a blade from the kitchen and a flask of holy water Michael insisted she carry. Even if you don't believe, he said, they do. She returned to Pendle Hill just after sunset. Fog hung heavier than before, like wet cotton pressing into her skin. The path was darker, steeper. The air vibrated with something low and ancient. But she didn't stop. She reached the summit where the ruins stood. This time she wasn't alone. 8 women just like the photo. Cloaked. Standing in a circle. Chanting in a language Chloe didn't recognize. She crouched behind a broken wall, barely breathing. Then one of them turned. Her face was pale. Sunken. And her eyes, black as a starless night, met Chloe's. You shouldn't have come back. The others turned in unison. The chant stopped. Silence. Then the woman spoke again. He called you here. So you take his place. Chloe stepped forward, voice trembling but loud. Where's my brother? The women said nothing. She pointed the blade. Answer me. The lead which chuckled, the sound dry and ancient. Still the brave one. Like him. He struggled too. But the hill was hungry. And he bled so beautifully. Chloe lunged, but something slammed into her mind, a force like wind and fire and screams all at once. She hit the ground, convulsing. Memories that weren't hers flooded her thoughts. Women burned alive. Screaming. Cursing the men who condemned them. Swearing to rise again through the hill itself. The black-eyed wives. When she came to, she was in the center of the circle. Bound by ash and salt. The witches towered above her. You walk in the path of the marked, the lead which whispered. The pact remains. One may leave if one stays. No, Chloe groaned. You can't have him. I won't let you. A sudden voice echoed across the hill. Don't do it, Chloe. Ryan. She twisted her head. He stood just beyond the circle, alive but pale, eyes wide with terror. You can't trade yourself, he begged. They'll devour you. She stared at him, heart bursting. I thought you were. They fed on me. But they didn't finish. They were waiting. For you. He took a step forward. But the witches shrieked as one, and no. They rushed toward him. Chloe saw it before it happened. The way the fog pulsed, the way the circle's energy sparked with malevolence. They couldn't let him leave. But Chloe had one chance. She gritted her teeth, dipped her finger into the flask of holy water, and smeared a line across the ash circle. The line sizzled. Crack. The circle shattered. Wind screamed through the hilltop. The witches staggered back, howling as light erupted from the broken seal. Chloe crawled toward Ryan. Come on, she shouted. He grabbed her arm, and together they ran. Fog chased them, teeth in its breath. Voices rose behind them, curses, promises, sobbing rage. But they didn't stop. Not until the hill vanished behind them, and the village lights flickered into view once more. Back at the pub, Michael stared at them both like ghosts. You saw them? He whispered. Chloe nodded. They'll come again, he warned. They always do. Chloe looked at Ryan. Then next time we'll be ready. Back in London, the city lights did little to dim the shadows that clung to Chloe's mind. It had been nearly 2 weeks since they escaped Pendle Hill, and though the bruises faded, the nightmares hadn't. Not for her. Not for Ryan. Each night, the same vision returned, 8 women with black eyes, standing in a circle, whispering her name. But now they were closer. Smiling. Waiting. Ryan, once the more light-hearted of the two, had changed. He barely spoke. And when he did, it was often to say things that didn't make sense. Fragments of ancient languages, phrases that chilled the room. He was slipping. One morning, Chloe noticed something. As he reached across the kitchen table for a glass of water, the sleeve of his hoodie rode up. Beneath it, a symbol had been burned into his forearm. A sigil made of twisted circles and jagged lines. It looked like it had been carved into the skin and then sealed by fire. What the hell is that? She gasped. Ryan yanked his sleeve down. It's nothing. She stood. Don't lie to me. He shook his head, almost dazed. It's just a mark. From them. From that night. I didn't want to scare you. Too late, she said, voice low. Then he whispered something she hadn't expected. I think they're inside me. They went to every doctor they could. Nothing abnormal. No fever, no infection, no neurological damage. But the dreams persisted. Ryan became distant, quieter, like he was listening to voices no one else could hear. Chloe reached out to Michael back in the village. His reply was short and urgent. Bring him back. Now. If the marks appeared, you're running out of time. She hesitated. The last thing she wanted was to return to Pendle. But if Ryan was changing, if he was being taken. She booked the train the same night. The village hadn't changed. Same sleepy quiet. Same crooked roads. Same gray fog hanging above the rooftops like breath that never left. Michael met them at the station. His expression told her everything. He hadn't expected to see Ryan still alive. They returned to the pub. Tell me what's happening to him, Chloe demanded. Michael poured a drink with shaking hands. The mark means he's been claimed, he said. You broke their pact, Chloe. You cut the circle. You stole a soul from their domain. I saved my brother, she snapped. Yes, Michael agreed, but that doesn't mean they won't come collect him later. Ryan sat silently in the corner, eyes distant. They're talking to me, he mumbled. Chloe turned sharply. What are they saying? They say I was supposed to stay. That I owe them. That you're the reason they're still hungry. Then he looked up, and for a moment his eyes turned black. Chloe gasped, backing away. Ryan? He blinked rapidly. His eyes returned to normal. I didn't mean to, he whispered. I can't stop it. I don't know where I end and they begin. Michael exhaled slowly. There might be a way. To end it? For good. That night, the three of them sat around a fire behind the pub. Michael unrolled an ancient map of Pendle Hill. There's a second circle, he said. Older. Deeper in the woods. Never touched by tourists. They say that's where the first blood pact was made. Chloe leaned in. And if we go there? Michael's expression hardened. Then we end it. You bring the marked one, Ryan, and perform the severing. She frowned. That sounds final. It is, he said. One soul stays. One walks away clean. She looked to Ryan. He was staring into the fire and without looking up, he said, I'll do it. They returned to Pendle Hill under a pale, sickle moon. This time there were no chants. No witches. Just silence and the rustle of wind through skeletal trees. Michael led them through a barely visible path deep into the woods. The deeper they went, the colder it became. Not just in temperature but in something deeper, something that made Chloe's bones ache and her breath tremble. They arrived at a hollow. The second circle was carved into the forest floor, made of stones etched with runes older than English. Ryan stepped inside. The stones lit up, glowing red like embers under skin. Michael handed Chloe a dagger. The blade shimmered like moonlight soaked in shadow. You must cut the bond, he said. Blood to blood. She held it tightly. What happens if I fail? Michael didn't answer. The ritual began. Ryan stood in the center. Chloe stepped into the outer ring. Michael whispered the incantation. The wind rose. Whispers came with it, female voices angry and mocking. Come back to us. You broke the circle. He is ours. The trees creaked. The earth vibrated. And then, from the shadows, they emerged. The 8 black-eyed wives walking slowly, not quite touching the ground. Their leader stepped into the circle, her black gaze fixed on Ryan. Chloe, she said sweetly, you can have him, but you must take his place. Chloe's hands trembled. The dagger felt heavier now. Warmer. As if it knew the choice. Ryan fell to his knees, clutching his head. They're inside. I can't hold them much longer. The witch turned to Chloe. You were always meant for this. It's why he called you here. Your soul burns brighter. Chloe raised the dagger. She remembered their childhood. Ryan sneaking cookies under the table. Defending her from bullies. Driving 3 hours to see her art show even when he had work the next day. No. She wouldn't trade him for anything. She gritted her teeth and cut across her palm. Blood fell onto the stones. The circle flared. She reached out and gripped Ryan's hand. A jolt of energy ripped through the air. The witches screamed, not in rage but in pain. Their forms flickered, broke apart like ash caught in a storm. The lead witch stepped forward shrieking, and oh, you cannot sever what was promised. But Chloe met her gaze strong now. Defiant. He's mine. And you don't get to have either of us. The circle exploded in light. And then, darkness. Chloe awoke at the base of the hill. Michael was beside her. Ryan, lying still, began to stir. His eyes opened. Clear. Human. It worked, Chloe whispered. Michael nodded. You severed the bond. But you did more than that. She frowned. What do you mean? You banished them. For now. But a wound like this, the hill will call again. Someday. Back in London things felt normal. No nightmares. No whispers. No black eyes. But sometimes late at night, Chloe would glance at the mirror and see something behind her shoulder. A flicker. A shadow. A reminder. The wives weren't gone. Just waiting. It had been 4 months since the ritual in the forest, since Chloe severed the bond that bound her brother to the black-eyed wives. 4 months of silence. Of peace. But peace never lasts when you've walked through hell and come back breathing. Pendle Hill never really lets go. Chloe found that out the night she woke up standing in the middle of the street, barefoot, with mud caked to her feet and twigs tangled in her hair. She didn't remember leaving the flat. She didn't remember dreaming. But she remembered the name the wind had whispered. Welcome home, 8th. It started subtly at first. Her plants withered no matter how much she watered them. Clocks stopped at 12:06 a.m. each night. Her reflection moved slightly out of sync. Ryan noticed too. You talk in your sleep, he said one morning, hesitating. But it's not your voice anymore. What do I say? He looked her in the eye. You say you miss the others. That you want to go back. She tried to deny it. But then she noticed the dreams. In them she walked the forest alone. 8 robed women stood in a circle, but one spot was always empty. A place reserved for her. Each night that spot drew closer. Each night she felt less afraid, and more at home. Chloe wasn't stupid. She knew what it meant. She hadn't walked away clean. She hadn't severed the bond. She'd absorbed it. The ritual hadn't just banished the wives, it had left their power without a vessel. And it had found her. Michael confirmed it. She called him, told him everything. He went quiet for a long moment. Then he said, I feared this might happen. What do I do? You chose to keep your brother. You gave your blood freely. That was the final requirement. The wives didn't lose a soul that night, they simply gained a new one. No, she whispered. No, I'm not like them. You are becoming one of them. Over the next week, Chloe changed. Her eyes darkened, not just in color but in emotion. People moved out of her way on the street. Her presence was colder, more commanding. She started hearing thoughts, seeing flashes of memories from strangers. The worst part? She didn't mind. It felt natural, powerful. She stopped sleeping. Ryan begged her to go back to Michael, to try to reverse whatever was happening. But deep down she knew it couldn't be undone. There was no ritual to unmake a witch, especially not one who'd willingly stepped into the circle. The only question left was, would she fight it, or embrace it? She got her answer the night the crows came back. Hundreds of them, silent, watching from rooftops, fences, windowsills. Their eyes glowed faintly red. She stood outside her flat, staring up at them. They weren't warning her. They were waiting for orders. Ryan came out, breathing hard. We have to go. No. We'll leave the country if we have to. Chloe didn't answer. Instead, she reached out, and all the birds flew away at once, swirling around her like a storm, then vanishing into the sky. Ryan froze. What did you just do? I didn't do anything, she said softly. They listened because they wanted to. That night, she returned to Pendle Hill. Alone. The trees welcomed her like old friends. The wind whispered names she didn't know, but understood. She followed the path. The deeper she walked, the less human she felt. Her skin prickled like static. Her heartbeat slowed. Her vision sharpened. At the forest clearing, the circle was waiting. 7 hooded women stood around it. The leader, the same one who tried to claim Ryan, stepped forward. But now she bowed her head. We greet you, sister. Chloe stepped into the circle. And it accepted her. No pain. No fear. Only belonging. The voices filled her mind, not chaotic, not screaming, but harmonious. A chorus of women bound by pain, fury, and vengeance. Centuries of injustice. Centuries of silence. Until now. You're not like the others, the leader said. You walked in both worlds. You severed the old and created the new. Chloe met her gaze. I'm not here to serve, she said. I'm here to lead. And they knelt. All 7. Chloe stood at the center of the circle, and the earth pulsed beneath her feet. Magic, raw and ancient, swirled into her bones. She raised her hand and the circle lit in fire. She was no longer a survivor. She was no longer prey. She was the 8th wife. But with power came hunger. Chloe discovered she could no longer stomach food. She didn't sleep. She didn't age. She watched London from afar, walking unseen among its people. She heard their thoughts, saw their cruelties. She started marking them. Those who hurt the weak. The abusers. The manipulators. The ones who hid behind wealth and status. They disappeared. One by one. Some were found in twisted positions in their homes, eyes black, expressions frozen in terror. Others were never found at all. Ryan knew. He confronted her in a park at midnight, where no other soul would dare walk. You're killing people. I'm correcting balance. They're still people. So were the women they broke. The girls they buried. The mothers they silenced. He stepped closer. You don't get to play God, Chloe. She looked up. The wind howled. The sky darkened. I'm not a god, she said. I'm something older. Ryan took a step back. Please come back. Whatever's left of you, fight it. You're still my sister. She hesitated. For the first time in weeks, her expression cracked. A tear slid down her cheek. I wish I could, she whispered. Then she turned and vanished into the night. They say you can still hear her voice in the wind around Pendle Hill. That she walks the paths where no light reaches. That if you're cruel, selfish, or wicked, and you walk alone after midnight, she finds you. Sometimes she whispers your name. Other times, she doesn't say anything at all. Just watches, waits, and marks you. So if you ever find yourself near Pendle Hill after dark, do yourself a favor. Never walk alone, because the wives are watching. And now, they have a queen. If you felt a chill while listening, you're not alone. Pendle Hill has a long memory, and some stories are more than just legends. If you enjoyed this tale, like, subscribe, and hit the bell icon so you never miss the next nightmare. And tell us in the comments below. Would you dare walk alone near Pendle Hill after midnight? Until next time, stay in the light. And whatever you do, don't walk alone.